Okay, so before we get started, I may do it again at the end of the show just to make sure you all fucking see it. I wanted to actually put up some shout outs or ads of some sort of stuff that's really important to me and to the people involved. Excuse me, video getting ahead of me and shit. How do you rewind that motherfucker? Okay, so I wanted to just put up some stuff that I want you guys to kind of pay attention to. Go follow and check out if it piques your interest and you're like, hmm. So, first up is Murderers Incorporated, who's a really good friend of mine, actually has this bitchin' Kickstarter going for her new game, Murder at the Speakeasy. If you like murder, fried chicken, what's this? That's not what's happening in this one. But go to murdersincorporated.com to learn how you can help out a really good friend of mine and actually play some really good fucking games. Okay, next. What? What's happening? Okay, Seven Little Chakras is coming to you from the Hood Rat Hippie, who I had the pleasure of Instagram meeting and doing a feature on. The Hood Rat Hippie is fucking awesome and actually came up with this new book for curious little minds or even curious adult minds. So check that out at Seven Little Chakras on Instagram and find out how you can order. Is there makeup on my face already? Oh yeah, I'm already melting. Okay, next. From my friend Raul of the Dead, who does all kinds of things, including selling his own brand of t-shirts now. Infernal Tees is now available, 2 designs available. You can find this on Raul of the Dead Photography. Whoa, 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 whoa. Let's go back here. Thank you. I forgot what I was saying. RauloftheDeadPhotography.com. And you may have forgotten about it, but shame on you if you did. We worked our asses off all year, well, since last Halloween, on the issue 6 of the Realm of the Dead magazine, featuring on the cover the hot cat mama, the beautifulest, sweetest person to ever grace your Instagram feeds, Manku Gyo. Also featured FX Face. Okay. So there you have it. I'll put it back up afterwards so we can get to this Euphoria talk. Fuck. It's a work in progress, people. It's a work in progress. Veronica, welcome to the show.
Hi. Thanks
You
for having me.
I love talking and gossiping with you. Of course, I had to have you. I was like, we're gonna have a Euphoria chat, and we're gonna have to do it live because
Mm-hmm.
horror fans like Euphoria. You know,
Yeah.
I was just watching rewatching, and I recall a scene where believe it was Kat killing her boyfriend dying.
Yes, I
You
just
remember
saw
that
that right
scene?
now.
Yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
just and then the big Jason Momoa dude look alike, and then the
Yeah.
plowing scene, and
Yep.
Euphoria is such a fun fucking show, but it also makes me feel like shit. It also, unearths all kinds of feelings. It makes me. There's been times
Mm-hmm.
where I stood up at night because, from the perspective of a mother
Mm-hmm.
who's pretty awesome, who has adult children, who has teenage children in high school, um, I got that aspect of it, and then I also understand the addiction side and the stories of each of the characters. So it was who else to talk to
Yeah.
besides you with it, but with the makeup, everything about
Mm-hmm.
Euphoria says Veronica. The makeup, look at this
Mm-hmm.
ghoul. I tried, but we're not going to do it close up. Somebody snap a screenshot of that. You emulate the aura of the show. I mean, it's a cinematography. I can't say the word. Not cinematography. It's just visual.
Yeah.
The cinematography is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful show to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Have you tried any drugs? Can you relate to any of the characters? Like, I don't know if that's a
No.
question you're supposed to ask people.
Well, like in the drug sense, no, because I grew up very like with strict parents. I was never allowed to go anywhere. So I was very sheltered like growing up. So like in the drug aspect, no. But I could relate to characters like in other ways, like how they think or how they were brought up.
Mm.
Yes, but no drugs for me. I was boring as a teen.
Yeah,
Still.
no, that's not boring. It's to me, that's not boring. I didn't get to do drugs until later on. And,
Mhm.
before we started, I don't know. It was hard to get drugs back in the day. So, or back in the 90s. Like, weed alone
Really?
was hard to get.
Hmm.
Um, and I lived in Pomona, California. Like, it should have been easy, but I too lived a sheltered life.
Yeah.
Um, I had to do a lot of sneaking around. But that's what I love about the show too, because it has something for everybody. It has
Yeah.
something for the
Mhm.
42-year-old parents. It has something for the cis men.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
And not wait to get into that. It has everything. One of the things that I put in my notes here that, and we'll get into makeup in a point at one point in our little talk here, was one of the things that I appreciate about. We'll talk about the pros and cons of the show because there's a lot of problematic things going on behind the scenes that we always talk about in our DMs and such.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I did like was the casting because there was like a problem in
Mhm.
Hollywood where they weren't casting actual transgender women into roles. They were having like, who was it, Jennifer Lawrence or Scarlett
Mhm.
Johansson play a transgender
Mhm.
woman? Fuck off.
Yeah. No. Mhm.
And so when I, did all my other research aside from IMDb, they were saying that Hunter Schafer actually loves her role
Yeah.
and wants
Mhm.
people to know that she's transgender, and I love that. But
Yeah.
again, what do you think about the fact that even like Zendaya, they molded her character, Rue, and
Mhm.
her character emulates who she really is. She's a biracial girl.
Yeah. Mhm.
The casting was epic. What do you think? Like, can you even pick up some other little dots that they did with the casting on how they found the perfect cast for the characters?
So I don't have like feel like all of them were like picked very well. Like the character, the person who plays Maddie.
Hmm.
No, we needed more Latina slash Hispanic women in shows. Like Barbie. There's something I have to say about Barbie though. Like not like a negative. Why is she the only like quote unquote plus size person?
Yeah, it's a really good
Like the
question
token
because
plus size.
when I look at friend groups or when I hang around different people, we're all shaped, but always some way
Three
little
different
plump.
sizes. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's really different. So we have, and I noticed that too. We have Cassie, who's in great shape. We
Yeah.
have Maddie, who's in great shape.
Yep.
We have Zendaya, her sister, everybody. But then there's just the one. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, and she's not even quote unquote considered like plus size. She's like a mid-sized body. We
Right.
basically have the same body, and if people look at me, they wouldn't consider me plus size.
Right. It's so
Like
fucking
hello.
frustrating.
Hmm.
And those were one of the problematic things. It's like they did their check boxes and did well,
Yep.
but then there is the issue. I was like, well, how come she is the only one? She's definitely the token big girl.
Yep.
And then I can't identify like who her character actually. I don't know. I wasn't able to look at like her ethnicity, but I know that she's Latina. But
Mm-hmm.
circling back to Maddie, what I love, when we're talking about favorites, and you're right, we need more of these stronger minded, independent
Yes.
Latina women who she's actually choosing
Mm-hmm.
to conquer this toxic relationship until season two, which
Yeah.
brings up a good question. We are going to talk about spoilers here, so that's your warning. There will be spoilers.
You've had time to watch the show.
You've had plenty of fucking time. It's like when people are like, have you watched Midsommar yet?
You've had time to watch it.
So my show's full of spoilers, especially when we're live. I was tripping when what they seem to keep repeating over and over in season two, how Nate was telling Cassie like Maddie will spend the rest of her life trying to kill me, which I thought was
Mm-hmm.
super narcissistic. Because,
Yes.
but then I also have issues with him too.
Me
But then he
too.
tells Cassie, we all do, right? Cassie, and he says, well, but she'll actually kill you.
Yep.
And to me, which is fine, Cassie's at
She has
this
her
point,
own problems. Yeah.
she's a hot mess, and I feel like she needs to go to another school and start over.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I can relate to Cassie in some aspects too. Um, but circling back to Maddie and her strong-willed character, what do you think about the fact that she's so badass, with the exception of her weakness for Nate? What do you think that is? The addiction
I
of.
It maybe has a lot, like, because when they talked about her when she was younger, like she doesn't have like a good family upbringing. So
Mhm.
she herself decided like this is the type of person I'm gonna be, and it doesn't matter like what my mom is or what my dad is. And that's something I can relate to a lot too. Like, not to talk about like my family, but I didn't have the best upbringing either. And like myself, I decided like I don't want to live like that, and I'm gonna choose how I'm gonna be. So I feel like with Maddie, that's exactly what she did, and she
Mm.
sticks with it. And that's what makes her seem like the bitch. But I mean, is she really? No, because she's being authentic.
And she's fucking loyal. I
Yeah.
love how she's there for her friends.
Mm-hmm.
Right then and there. She's always there for her friends. She seems like she's definitely ho before bros. Did I say that right? Ho before bros.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't admit that she's perfect with Nate, which is fine. I
Right.
mean, because we all know that ugh, we'll get to that
He's
in a moment.
yeah.
But she's
He's
to me, yeah, she's a actually I can't find any flaws with Maddie other than, as a character. I want to know more about her, the actress herself, because I love the way she speaks, the way everything
mm-hmm.
she's soft spoken, but it's like rare. So
Yeah,
fucking
like makes her presence known.
yes, and I love that. She would have been someone I feared in high school, but also would have been like, "Can we be friends? Because fuck, I want to hang out with you."
Yeah,
Um,
same.
and I would never have had the balls to sleep with her, even her ex. You know, uh,
You don't do that.
like
You
what?
don't go after your friend's ex.
Yeah,
That's a big no-no.
well, I did actually when I was a bad girl. I actually slept with. I lost my virginity to my friend's boyfriend
Oh.
because I was so horny and selfish and I wanted to get it over with. And he was like the first one to be like, "Oh yeah, I'll do it." And I'm like, "Oh, I remember how like selfish it felt and how,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? I felt all like powerful and all this shit. And she fucking found out. And that's when the reality hit. Like what I did was stupid.
Yeah.
Never, you know what I mean? Never do that. So she refollowed me on Facebook and I was surprised. It was like, I'd still be mad at me.
Yeah, me too. I'm a Scorpio. I don't forget.
Yeah,
You
right.
do me wrong once and that's it.
Yeah, she actually oh, there's
Mhm.
a cat. We didn't really speak a lot, but it was just really interesting how that played out. But then I found everybody was sleeping with everybody's someone, but she was actually, as far as I know, kept her reputation clean. But aside from that, it was a lot. So that was my, there's no way to atone for it other than, I just do the best I can.
Yeah, it
But
happens.
but
Well.
I'm also happily married, and I'm cool. Well, most of the time until he asked me what's for dinner. It's like, God. Anywho, so I love Maddie. I love the casting. Let's see here. What was the other thing? One of the people that I wanted, you and I seemed to really hit it off on when we first started talking about the show was, and I don't know what our mindsets were, but we were talking about the Jacobs family.
Oh yeah.
You
Mhm.
actually, before we get into that fucking family, you
Uh-huh.
pointed out something that kept me awake at night going, "What the fuck?" And I couldn't find anything on the internet about this. And it was the picture, the family portrait.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead and tell what that
So
was all about.
when they finally show like who's Nate's father is, because we see that picture before, like when Cal is hooking up with Jules in the hotel, we see her like flip over his phone and we see that family picture. But we're still like, okay, he has a family. We don't know who that is. Then at the end of that episode, I believe it's the first episode,
It
right?
is.
So once we see Nate go into his house and goes up the stairs, they like pan to that family photo. And then in that photo, you see there's 3 kids, but all we know is there's Nate and he has an older brother. So who is that kid?
2 seasons in, and no one has brought this up.
No, so I went on like a deep dive, like, okay, what is it? Like on Twitter, on TikTok, everywhere. And people have said that it was just a mistake.
No, I refuse to accept that.
Yeah, right? Like
I
something
refuse to accept that.
something has had to happen with Nate or the older brother. That's what I think, because there's a lot of theories that like Nate or his brother did something to that kid.
I
That's why
can
the
see it.
family's so dysfunctional. I'm like, I'd believe that.
I believe,
But
but I don't think the source of the dysfunction stemmed from whatever Nate's darkness is. Well, we know
no.
what Nate's darkness is. It was totally fucking Cal, the dad,
Yep.
who, to me, every cis white man that I see out in the wild is a Cal, in my opinion. And man, I'm not apologizing. I'm not going to
Mhm.
apologize. If you're a cis white man who has this particular build in this thing, I used to live around these motherfuckers.
Mhm.
I don't trust you. And I have a really funny story that I got to tell, a personal story I got to tell you. I think I did tell you. Oh yeah, I told you.
Okay.
But it made me give pause and go, Michelle, this is why you cannot be trusting of everybody, especially
Mhm.
cis white men that have this particular energy about them.
Mhm.
When they're very confident or want to be too extra kind, or
Mhm.
their involvement in the community and the way they have to project their achievements,
Yep.
huge red
The
flag.
like
I gotta back off.
the perfect person, the perfect family. There's no such thing.
No fucking such thing, and I
Mhm.
have witnessed it myself. I refuse to believe that that was a mistake with the picture with the 3
We don't
kids.
know.
And if I were Sam Levinson or whoever helps him write, I'd be watching what the fans are saying. Like
Mhm.
any good director would be, and go, "How do I write that? Because really, what are they gonna?" I mean, season 3, they just cut it off. Like
Yeah,
they
season 2 ended so abruptly and so fast. I did not like it.
It was not okay. It was
Mhm.
kinda like the Ozark ending recently, season 4 of Ozark. That was not cool.
And you know,
But also that's how we come back, but
yeah.
it was a lot, but I refuse to believe, so he needs to get on that. I'm gonna start making tweets about and tagging them, like, "You need to do something. It's not a mistake. I refuse to accept that
Yeah,
or believe
let's
it."
just harass them.
Yeah, and, going back to Nate, some of the things that everything bothers me. He's a terrible, terrible creature because he's violent.
Yep.
And here's the other thing. This is where you have to take responsibility for your childhood trauma. At a certain
Mhm.
point, you can make the conscious choice. Well, I hope people can, to stop
Yep.
blaming your parents for your trauma. I mean, you could
Mhm.
definitely talk about your childhood, but when you hit a certain point, you make the choice on how you want your life to go. And Nate's perspective of how he wanted life to go was a traditional cis male, American male,
Yeah.
kids, wife, but not daughters. But
Yep.
also, even when he
Mhm.
started fucking Cassie while he was in his little coma, he was
Mhm.
thinking about starting a family with Cassie. Like,
And did you notice in that Jules would pop up as well?
yeah. So that was another thing that I want to, get into it with you. How does I can't tell if Nate is actually queer or gay. I can't
Mhm.
tell.
I think he is.
Okay, let's talk about why, because I want to know what I'm missing. What did I miss?
Well, I just feel like it because the whole thing with him like messaging her and all of that, I feel like that was him being his authentic self.
Really, you think he became vulnerable for her, even though he was plotting
Yes. I
fucking
think
mutiny from the get go?
yeah, I think deep down he was being genuine and he felt like he can, open up and talk to her because when he shows those scenes with Cassie and you see her, I have a feeling that he likes Jules and wants to be with her, but because, she's a trans woman,
Hmm.
that's not gonna fly. So he chooses the next best thing, which is Cassie,
The pretty
because
blonde.
the another blonde woman
That's
that he
actually
can,
acceptable.
yeah.
Well,
Hmm.
how about this for you? It something that seems very, very common amongst, and Rue even mentions this, that
Hmm.
all the men that Jules slept with were usually cis or hetero white men that
Yep.
were married or straight per se, or what, hetero.
Hmm. Yep.
And I hear that a lot from a lot of my trans and queer friends,
Yep.
that who always ends up in their DMs,
Hmm.
married straight men.
Yep.
So I wonder
Hmm.
if he is one of those and he's already that. Because does that make them, when they're like, "Oh, I'm fucking straight," does that make them queer because they projected that into the world? Or that's a really good question. I would love if a cis white male is watching. I know that I have a particular friend that watches, who's this white male who watches Euphoria, and we've had a little back and forth about it, but he's also an ally for, LGBTQ BIPOC people. So I don't know. I would like to get his perspective, and I'll message him after the show
Mm-hmm.
unless he's watching. October Phantasma, if you're watching, I need you to weigh in on your white male perspective, cis
Yeah.
male perspective, please.
Give
Which
us
is
an
not
insight.
something I would do any other time because I don't usually fucking care.
We just want an insight.
Just a little, from a decent source that, because I could ask Chuck all day, but Chuck is a unique individual. Sometimes I'm like, did I marry an alien? I'm proud of it. But that was one of the things that I was really curious about. So we're gonna have to
Mhm.
circle back on that one once we
Yeah.
get an answer.
Yeah.
Now, Cal, well, and then there's that, but then at the end of season 2, again, spoilers, if you don't want to hear about it. Um, well, I'll play an ad real quick because I'm putting this on Anchor too. My bullshit excuse for an ad to give people enough time to pause. Okay, babe, play it again. Oh, I'm supposed to do it. Hold on. The fucking Heimer. Okay. Murders by Chelsea. This is fun. It's like playing Clue in your own house. So, good time. I'm so pissed I missed that party. You were there. You have to
Yeah, it was
give
so
us an
much
account of
fun.
it. So much
So much
fun.
fun. Yeah.
And then the next ad, I'm trying to do this properly. I don't even know if this is working. Doop, 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 doop. Play some music. Doop, 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 doop. My show is the worst, but the best. I don't know. What did I do wrong? Okay, you've had enough time. There you go. So you've had enough time to go. Season 2, when it ends, it seems like, what is Nate's motive for ratting his dad out and giving the disc back to Jules?
Hmm.
Is it because he loves Jules?
I feel like he does. Like low key, he does. And like maybe deep down inside, he realizes he fucked up and he wants to do some good, maybe.
Some
Because he could have done a lot more with that disc.
Oh yeah, he already destroyed his dad, which I
Yeah.
thought was super. To me, I was like, God, that's really brave, dude. That's him going, I don't give a shit about this lifestyle. I'm
Hmm.
gonna fuck it all up because dad, you did this to me. You're a piece of
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
I'm really excited to see how Cal handles that because doesn't take responsibility for shit.
Yeah.
He doesn't take like
Yeah.
most men.
Yes. And I kind of I remember we talked about this too. How is it gonna affect his family? Because it can go two different ways. They're a small town. They can either like ostracize them because they did it once. Do you remember when
Mhm.
he choked Maddie and they weren't allowed in the restaurant
Right.
because of the image? So now that everyone's gonna find out about this of Cal, like how is it going to affect the rest of his family, like his wife and his kids? Or are people going to be like, we'll just not talk about it because he's an influential man in the city?
Fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Damn. Here's me and my Pisces dreamy, let's be positive mind. I was thinking the community would rally for the mom and 2 kids.
I'm like, who
But the
knows?
fuck they're not.
It can go either way.
But that's
Mhm.
true. That's damn, this is why I love talking to you
Mhm.
about this show in particular.
Yeah.
Um damn, because we see that shit and we've talked
Mhm.
about that shit.
Yeah.
Community my ass.
Hmm.
Again,
So,
I don't know what my hope is for. I know it's really difficult because now to me, as thinking as a married wife, Chuck had pulled the same shit as Cal, which was funny. We used to watch Girls, and
mhm.
when Lena Dunham's dad came out in his late 50s that he was gay, him and his mom, because they were super tight, and then he was like, I'm gay. And the way they came out, she was really angry at first, but then they ended up just being best friends. And she was like talking him through his relationships, a
Yeah.
few years down the line. I told Chad
Yeah.
that's going to be us. He gets so mad. I'm like, see, the more mad you get, the more I'm convinced that you're going to hit your midlife crisis and admit that you're, queer. And I'm going to fucking love
Mhm.
you even more for it. So where was I
Yeah.
going with that? Stupid drink. Where was I going with that? Oh, queer Cal.
About
No responsibility.
Mhm.
No, he and I
No.
feel really like when you hear his backstory, I did feel bad about the position that he's put in. He made the choice. Okay.
Mhm.
But he made
Yep.
the choice to go ahead and do the family thing. Doesn't mean that you can't change
Right.
your past. He instead do what cis men do. Oh, I attained power in my suburb. Therefore,
Yep.
I'm going to do this double life and I'm going to be awesome at it. And he ends up, becoming so blinded by his power that he didn't realize that he was fucking kids,
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
fucking, trans kids.
Mhm.
So it's just really interesting. And did he even take responsibility for it? No, he begged Jules to
Yep.
not say
No.
anything.
Anything. Yep.
Um, so
Mhm.
I'm anxious to see what happens in season 2 now that his ass is busted. So one of the things other one I wanted to talk to you about was Jules' story because we both can kind of relate to this as me as a mom and as a daughter, you as a
Mhm.
daughter, and you're like, nope, I am not bringing children into the world at this point in my life, like
No.
at all.
Mhm.
Like,
No. At all.
I
Mhm.
am so okay. I've already had them, and I could tell you, motherhood ain't for the fucking faint of heart, man. This shit is the hardest thing. I honestly thought my kids were going to kill me, just from a broken heart, dude. Like,
Yeah.
so when people say, "Oh, they're gonna break your heart," and they always have a smile on their face when they say it, it's really tough, and I feel like we should cry
Yeah.
about it more often because it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Sure.
but Jules' story, and this is where the psychiatric background comes in, and like the learning and accepting of your children's behaviors from birth.
Mhm.
Rue's story made a lot of sense because everyone's always trying to find a reason why they turned out the way they did. Rue was born on 3 days after 9/11, I think, or right
Yes.
after 9/11.
Yeah, right after. Yeah.
And, she spent 3 days in the hospital. I remember what she said 3 days in the hospital while her parents were glued to the TV watching this, American tragedy unfold.
Yeah.
Um, So again, I cannot attest or put blame because one of my kids was stressed from the moment of birth. And I could say it was a very stressful pregnancy. So fuck it. When I realized that, I let a lot of guilt go. Okay. Like
Mhm.
it was unintentional. It was like, I'm so sorry, but how do I help the kid? And how do I
Yeah.
understand this child
Mhm.
was kind of like the focus that I had. But of course, society got in the way and I did a lot of fuck up. So I relate to like Rue's mom, and I definitely do not relate to Jules's mom. And I don't relate her dad, I kind of do because I feel like he's walking on eggshells with her.
Yeah.
And he's kind of make up for the shit the mom put her through.
Yep. That's exactly what I feel too.
So I'll have you give a brief Jules's brief backstory if you're
Mhm.
able to. Go for it,
Yeah.
because I'm gonna take a
Yeah.
sip.
So when Jules was about like 12 or maybe 10, something like that. She was like a
She was like,
preteen.
yeah.
uh Her mother drove her to like a psychiatric hospital to have her admitted, and that really took a toll on Jules. I mean, obviously. And there's a scene where Jules, with a soda can, self harms and does it a little too much. And so they just have her tied up. And she's already like dealing with like her image because they talk about that
Mhm.
she would stand in front of the mirrors and see, I don't like my arms, my thighs, my body, everything. And I'm pretty sure she named like almost every body part.
Mhm.
That's already big in that age. And so
Sad.
for her to be put in that situation, I mean, who wouldn't have broke? And
Right.
so after that, her dad gets full custody of her. And I believe it, she says at age 13, that's when she started transitioning.
Really, yeah.
And, and it kind of just got better from there.
Which is beautiful. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, you definitely have to know as a parent, like, okay, my child is different. You know what I mean? Like, what would make I think a parent's goal is always to make their kids comfortable. We try to protect them from the harms of the
Mhm.
world. Um, when they're young, but it was like her mom was mistrusting of her
Yeah.
and was more worried about what other people were going to think of Jules because they couldn't
Mhm.
come up with a diagnosis. There was
No.
nothing wrong with her. She,
No.
just the little notes that I was writing from when I had to rewatch that painful episode being, a black weird kid, biracial weird kid growing up. My mom, based off of what she heard on the news that day or who she talked to, would say, I have to be this way because I'm black or this way because I'm
Mhm.
white too. Don't forget that I'm white too. It was
Right.
really confusing when I was just doing what I like doing. And,
Mhm.
to her it was me betraying, black people
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
whatnot. So it was a lot. So one of the things I've learned as an adult and always reconnected with my inner child is that when we're born, we dive into like this human existence. We're just this thing, this cosmic piece of dust
Yep.
going into a human body. And sometimes we land in the seemingly wrong one,
Mhm.
whether it be the wrong, gender, the
Yep.
construct of society, or
Mhm.
a body that's sick
Yep.
from birth,
Mhm.
physically, mentally, or whatnot. Our living experiences are this is a human existence, and how we struggle through them are measured by time, age, and local environment.
Mhm.
So poor Jules, who was born into this is what I'm learning, and I love and admire so much and respect and find transgender men and women as
Mhm.
just absolutely
Mhm.
cosmically beautiful and so like a very good representation of the divine feminine because they're connected to more than just what's here on earth and the
Yeah.
society that we live in. So they're
Mhm.
beautiful for it's brave, especially when you're a kid at, 13. And this happens because this happened to Hunter Schafer, who plays Jules.
Yes.
She transitioned
Mhm.
early. She's only
Mhm.
23.
Yeah.
Um, so it's beautiful to me to know that these kids have the support from their parents to go through transition. But as
Yes.
time went on with Jules, her dad seems like he just lets her do whatever he wants to lets her do whatever she wants
Yeah.
because he doesn't want to fight with her and make her feel like, oh, I'm acting like your mom.
Yeah. Mhm. You can kind of see that too, because he'll like ask, "Where are you going?" Or like when she goes to like her parties or when she
Mhm.
sneaks off. But I mean, he's probably thinking like, so much has gone with my daughter that I don't want to be another added factor of her not liking her life.
Yep, and
Mhm.
I can understand that so much as
Mhm.
a mom of you know a child who had to spend time in a behavior hospital. And it was just one of those things that what I realized at those points, those difficult points about my kids, where I did not have control. They're not pets you can
Mm-mm.
train. You can't
Yeah.
train cats, really. You can train dogs,
Yeah.
but kids have to be respected as much as adults. And they didn't ask
Mm.
to be fucking born, dude.
No.
And that's one thing I
Mm-mm.
want to say to new parents. They did not ask to be born. Do not try to mold them into you.
Mhm.
Learn from them and their
Yeah.
experiences. And I
Mhm.
can say that as a mom because fuck, my kids have taught me so much. I
Mhm.
just love seeing them just for the fact when they have a story to tell, or just like, oh shit, that's a thing.
Yeah,
Teach
like
me.
they're their own person.
Right. And I have a lot of kids.
Mhm.
Each one of them is absolutely fucking different.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter. And that goes to show that we're part of this. We're just things that are born. And I forgot what
Yeah.
book I read that says like we kind of choose where we land. I think I panicked in my cosmic state and
Mhm.
and ended up here too fucking early.
Yeah.
But you know what? Fuck it. I'm having a great
Mhm.
time. And that also shows how age ain't shit. Somebody told me I look 28 and I was like, God damn,
That's awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
When I looked 40 at 28. One of Euphoria is an addicting show, and it's one of those things where I was like, this is some clever ass writing, clever ass visual
Mhm.
representation of addiction in
Yeah.
all kinds of forms. Not just Rue's struggle with chemical dependency, which also stems from mental health. And I think that's very important to mention.
Yes.
Rue was born with a
Mhm.
plethora of mental illnesses,
Yeah.
and it's nobody's fucking fault. I really hate when they're always trying to get to that root of the problem. It just is, you diagnosed her with all these tests, you put this poor baby through stress. Now,
Yep.
treat her for it. And I think obviously her dad couldn't help it. And this is one of the things where like Rue, when she talks about like, oh, I was gonna kill myself in a month anyways. How did that make you feel? Did you or were you one of those fans that was like, no, Rue, stay, like, let's work through this? But based off of Rue's struggles, what do you think about her wanting to die?
I feel like I'm kind of stuck in the in between because I love Rue as a character, and I understand like where she comes from by saying that, but I also feel like I understand her pain, and ultimately if that's her decision, I mean, I'm not going to judge her for it,
Right.
because
And
life sucks, and sometimes we feel like we have no other choice.
well, depression,
So,
and depression is just one of her many ailments. Um,
yeah,
but even, if you just suffered from depression,
that's tough.
I was just reading something the other day where a brother she was talking about a brother who suffered from depression his whole life, and his it was depression that killed him, not
Hmm.
unaliving himself. You see what I mean? So people need to stop using it as a stigma, like, or treating it as a stigma. Oh, I'm sorry. We can take a. Do you want a break?
Can we have a break?
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
Go
A
for it,
lot going
girl,
on.
girlfriend. Go for it. We'll keep talking. I don't know if we can pause. I see a kitty or a puppy. Want to let Veronica do her thing? Oh shit! Wait till she comes back. How do we do? Hi. Hello. Hello.
Wait, are we paused or?
We were, but I was like, wait, because I was like, get out her business.
It's fine. It's nothing serious. We're back on. Yeah.
So it's one of those things where when people discuss the unaliving situation, it's like when I heard about like Robin Williams and
Mhm.
even Chester Bennington, all these influential people that unalive themselves,
Yeah.
um, it's like, can you blame them? I think what happens is my uncle had said it too. Death is something that we fear, and it's when somebody chooses makes that choice for themselves, it's an insult to the living.
Hmm.
Living doesn't understand.
No, they don't.
And
And
it's not an insult, you know?
no, I don't think so. And I think people say that because death is such a taboo topic that not a lot of people like to talk about, especially like if you haven't lived through death. People get kind of like, let's not talk about it. But you said like all of those people that you mentioned, they seemed like they were happy. And when people say like, oh well, they were happy, they were doing this, they went to school, they went to work, they did all of this, but they still decided what they decided. It's like, can you really blame them? People put up a front from
Yeah.
an early age, and we just deal with that.
Yep.
And so,
And sometimes the darkness closes into where it feels suffocating. I'm
yeah,
sure many of us have suffered from some kind of depression or even a panic attack. A panic attack, it feels like you are going to die.
yeah, it was
And
awful.
what are you really afraid of? The pain. You're not afraid of actually,
Yeah.
completing yourself, putting yourself back into totality.
Mm-hmm.
But death to me is something that we do need to talk about, where tragedies are awful. Like, tragedies are tough on the living.
Mm-hmm.
But the person who, makes the conscious choice, it's just like, I don't know. I'm in the middle with you, where on the case of Rue or the case of like Robin Williams, it's
Yeah.
like I would never judge anybody
Yeah.
for unaliving themselves. I would
Yeah.
not. Never.
Mhm.
More or less, it's like, I'm sorry I didn't see it. Um,
Yeah.
but
I
then
feel
on the
the
flip,
same.
I don't know if I talked to you about this. Then you have on the flip the people that use, I think we talked about this last week, use this, I don't know, more I don't know. I feel like the topic of what's happened mental health is starting to be talked about a lot more often, which
Yeah.
is good in the sense that people have can feel like they can talk about it and heal or not. It just depends on the person's affliction. But
Mhm.
when they use it as a trend or as a really shitty cry for help, when you have somebody in your life or somebody that followed you and you were cool with, and they're like, but then your energies just were off, or you actually helped
Mhm.
someone through a suicide attempt, and then when you saw them buy a gun and play with it while FaceTiming you, and
Mhm.
you're like, maybe not do that.
Yeah.
Being
Mhm.
as what you just wanted to unalive yourself a few months ago,
Yeah.
and then gets mad at you for saying something and says, "I
Mhm.
wasn't suicidal." How am I supposed to trust anyone? Hey, Wayne, how are you supposed to go? I mean, I think you could genuinely feel it if somebody has a genuine cry for help or a cry for attention,
Yeah, I think so too. Like
you know.
when it's genuine, I think you can kind of pinpoint it out.
Yeah,
Um,
where
mhm.
I was guilted over that, like, oh, well, it made me feel like, of course I felt bad, that I didn't see the particular messages, but it's also like this person before wanted to talk about, I don't want to talk to white people about their white guilt or racial
Mhm.
topics. I will
Right.
talk to my Latina friends, my Latin friends. I will
Mhm.
talk to my African friends, Haitian friends, any
Yeah.
indigenous friends. I will talk to anyone but a white person who's feeling bad about the situation. It's on
Yeah.
y'all to do your research at this point.
Yeah.
And you know what I
Kind of
mean?
feel the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had enough of being
Mhm.
the source.
Yeah.
Because at this point I have to do my black woman healing.
Yep.
Um, so I made those choices to just distance
Mhm.
myself, not be rude, and then I got confronted with, "Oh, I'm not going to reach out to you when I need help anymore." So I don't know.
Yeah.
It was very
Mm.
frustrating.
Yeah, it is. And sometimes you have to think like not everyone can handle what you're dealing with. Like, I think we have talked about this,
Yeah,
like trauma
recently.
dumping. If people don't really know that, it's like when you throw out all of your traumas and everything you're going on to just someone like sporadically, you don't give them a warning. And sometimes I feel like I've done that, and I apologize to anyone who I have, because you don't really think about that, right? But
Right.
sometimes people are not in a good mental state to handle your problems on top of their own. And it's understandable, we all do that, but like that person who did that to you, they're being a little selfish with your feelings. Like
Mhm.
they didn't even ask you, how are you feeling, or can you talk to me, or are you able to?
Yep.
I mean, obviously you weren't, and they took it offensive, but I mean, they should consider how you're feeling as well.
Right. In which case, this
Um,
person knows. I mean, I do suffer from my own, and typically when I do, it's been a while, and I'm so grateful for that. My meds are working so well. It feels so good to feel. I feel like I feel like my human experience is great at the moment because I'm able to process my emotions.
yeah,
I
and that's
wish that for everybody suffering from
mhm,
depression. To be honest with you, I
mhm,
really do wish and hope that you can get the relief that I've had. And I hope this lasts forever. But Rue says, anytime I think, you know what I mean? We don't know.
yeah, yeah.
But I want to, enjoy it. I forgot where I was going. God damn it.
We were talking about how Rue said she only wanted to live one more month.
Yeah, she only wanted a month to live because she had relapsed, right? She had no intentions of staying sober. And again, I cannot blame Rue for her. She's tried, the kid's only 17 and she's fucking tried everything. I
Yeah.
also love that she doesn't, she's not addicted to sex or, a daddy type of man figure attention like
Right.
Cassie,
Yeah.
or an abusive relationship like Maddie. That's Maddie's addiction.
Yeah.
Um, I can't say that Lexi has an addiction. Lexi's so cute. I watched that kid grow up
That's great. Yeah.
in films. Like I used to watch her
Mhm.
mom. Like I love Leslie Mann. And I love her kids from Knocked Up and On. I love that Maud is such a wonderful woman and
Yeah.
going, this role, these roles that she's in. Anyways,
Mhm.
Lexi, I feel like she's coming into her own. She was always
Yeah.
the observer, and I love
Yeah.
that about her. She's gonna do
Mhm.
well. She's
Yeah.
brave, and she
Mhm.
fucking that power she emitted. But the
Mhm.
people's situations, it's like, look at Fez, look at Ashtray, look at they were born into these situations. They don't know
Yeah.
any better.
Yep.
And I don't know. I just feel like a whole the judgment of shows like Euphoria, and we could learn a lot by
Yeah.
not judging people
Mhm.
on shows. Like for an example, I have my brother-in-law, who I hate saying even as a brother-in-law, only because not because he's an addict, not because he's unhoused. These are things I sympathize with, okay? But because he's racist.
Mhm.
Okay, like legit old school KKK racist. You know how racist these days are like, I'm not
Yeah.
racist. I have a black friend or a
Oh
black
God.
daughter-in-law, or I
You
did
by
a
saying
black woman's
that,
hair in the 90s,
you
or
you by saying that you're racist.
thank you.
Sorry, but you are.
Thank you. So, thank you, Veronica. But I've heard all this bull that but that's how these racists are these days. You can't blatantly say you're racist, but they are. Everything they do, everything they say is racist
Mhm.
without them having literally. This one has said the N word in my presence, called me a fat nigger bitch.
Oh my
Okay. So that's why I could give a fuck if he ODs on meth. Apparently, meth heads live forever.
surprisingly.
I don't care if he, you know what I mean? But you see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's like
I
I have
get it.
sympathy for addiction, people who are they cannot help it, and we need to stop
Mm-mm.
judging.
Yep.
And here's the other thing: people who refuse to acknowledge that, one of the things I'll share publicly is when I was in Southern California before I saw you and Justin.
Mhm.
I was allowed to see my sister's kids, which was awesome, and I noticed that my nephew was wearing a suicide awareness band.
Mhm.
And not that he's suicidal, but he's actually, that means my sister and him are actually offering assistance. You see what they're not using suicide or unaliving them people suicide as a stigma, or
Yeah.
telling your kids don't watch this, or you know what, don't watch that, it's going to make you want to kill yourself, or type of
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
I don't know, what do you think about that? What do you think about people saying that Euphoria is one of those shows that
Um,
glorifies addiction and these situations that the characters face?
I don't think so.
Same.
Because the way I think is ultimately you're gonna make that decision, and if you decide to do drugs or do whatever, that's ultimately your decision. But I also do understand why people do these things. You don't know someone's situation economically, physically, mentally, etc. So who are we to judge someone for, making the decision they made? And like you said earlier with like Fez and Ashtray, they didn't have a choice.
Mm-hmm. They were born
So
into it.
the show overall, I think, gives a good picture of like what drugs can do, but I don't necessarily think it glorifies it.
I don't
Maybe,
see that.
maybe they make it seem a little glamorous, maybe, but I don't think it's glorifying like drug
Yeah.
use or anything like that.
Well,
And
it's truthful. Sam Levinson, the creator, is an addict. He
yeah, hmm,
you know what I'm saying? So he has that perspective. But when you are
yeah,
on drugs, you feel euphoric. You feel
yeah,
good. I can see
hmm,
how people get addicted, with my dabbling.
hmm,
I could see how it's addicting. And trust me, I'm puffing on my pen while I'm watching, just as a signal going,
yeah,
that's my euphoria. The show is my euphoria.
yeah.
Um, but to me, it's a learning opportunity. I also think as a mom of adult and teenage kids that like this show, 13 Reasons Why, are something that parents should be fucking watching.
Yes, that's another big show that
You
I
know?
love and enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like because honestly, I try not to be a naive mom, but I knew when my kids were growing up, they're not always going to be okay talking to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We just have
Yeah.
that ingrained in us not to trust our parents when we hit a certain age.
Hmm.
Um,
Trust me, I know.
yeah, and
Hmm.
so honestly, if I have the tools and the resources, go, hey, at least can you go talk to a trusted adult?
Mhm.
Let me, you know what I mean? All I want to do is help. And it's just really interesting. It sets things apart. I'm going to put a quote up and we're going to talk about the cons of the show.
Mhm.
Um, oh, I thought I was going to. Okay. So this is one of the quotes. When you hate your brain and your body, it doesn't mean you hate your life. It just makes life more unbearable.
Mhm.
Powerful and simple and illuminating.
Yeah.
And that was regarding Jules as she was
Mhm.
describing Jules's story. So
Yeah.
I had to put that one up because that one hit. Like,
Mhm.
I get it.
Yeah, it's relatable. Mhm.
You know what I mean? So the cons of the show, I actually was not I don't know, I think it was you that told me about all the problems with production and,
Mhm.
even the problematic again, Sam Levinson
Mhm.
highlighted these characters and I'm going, you're still I know you're an addict, but you
Mhm.
put, character as a female, very well written, but I know Zendaya had a lot of influence on the writing, so that
Yeah, she
helped.
does. Yeah.
And with curating Ruth's character, but I also want to know how white cis males always think that they can capture these experiences. Again,
Mhm.
Euphoria is beautifully stunning. The storytelling is epic, and this all came from his experience. I hope to be as good of a writer as him,
Mhm.
but he's a cis white male, therefore he's inherently sexist.
Yep.
You told me about all the problems that were going on behind the
Mhm.
scenes,
Mhm.
and they were all true.
Yep.
So let's start with Barbie and Kat's, you know, Kat. Let's start with her
Mhm.
because that was one of the bigger ones for me because again, big girl representation,
Mhm.
Hollywood fucking movie companies need to get it right. Come on.
Yeah.
We're not we got to get out of this mentality that we need to look a certain way, even as
Yeah.
plus size girls.
Mhm. Yeah, no.
So what do
I'm
you
over
let's start
I'm
with
over that.
yeah. So one of the first things was Kat. Let's talk about how he treated her and the situation going on with season 2 and her lack of scenes.
Yes, she was like one of the main characters, and in season 2, she barely had any roles, and the role she did have was very sparse,
It was
and her
confusing.
character was like completely cut off, basically.
Yeah, it was really confusing. It made no sense.
Mhm.
Like I get her struggle, but then you're right, it just cuts off. There was
Yeah.
no and it was because that she got into a argument, right? She
Yeah.
confronted Sam.
Yeah.
I forgot what it was. What did she confront him about?
I honestly don't even
You
remember.
too. I know they had an
Mhm.
altercation and men cannot help themselves.
No.
A
So
woman
true.
cannot sway my vision, even if she is representing,
Mhm.
the key character representing this,
Mhm.
small population of, or honestly, real
Right.
population of women.
Yeah.
Um, he ended up he's retaliating. It wasn't just her too. Cassie had brought I'm sorry for forgive me for forgetting her name. The character, the actress who
Mm.
plays Cassie.
Sweeney.
Yeah, thank you. Sydney Sweeney.
Mhm. Yes.
As a woman who has naturally gigantic titties,
Yep.
don't get me wrong. And I found out that she is of age, so I am allowed to say that.
Yeah.
He wanted, and analyzing all of her scenes, how fucking uncomfortable is that when you're in your early 20s?
Mhm.
Like,
And almost every scene she's topless.
yeah, and here's the other, and I get that her character needs to be portrayed a certain way, but does she have to be nude for it?
No.
She's uncomfortable. She's still a human being aside from this role. Something I learned recently, Steven Spielberg told James Landis, or said after James Landis basically disregarded the fact that he didn't take any responsibility in the role of that Twilight Zone fucking
Mhm.
tragedy, which I'm still upset about. Steven Spielberg said no role is worth dying for. So
Mhm.
these scenes where Sydney Sweeney weren't even empowering nude scenes.
Um,
These were demeaning.
yeah. Mhm.
And in the mind of a male, especially a teenage male, and I'm a mom of 3 cis male kids. I really was hoping one of them was going to be queer. I really did. Just so they can understand that
Mhm.
that empowers them. in a
Yeah.
sense, because every time I talk about Cassie, even my queer daughter, who I have permission to say queer daughter, I can start saying daughter again. Um,
Mhm.
identified as a daughter, was objectifying Sydney Sweeney for her tits. Yeah, she's great tits. She really does.
Mhm.
But let's
Yep.
talk about the fact that does she have to be nude for these scenes that are absolutely demeaning her? No.
No.
Let's cover it up because when a man rapes a woman in scenes throughout cinematic history, their dick is never shown.
Exactly. And I kept hearing that all of the men's dicks were fake, besides the guy who sits on the toilet when Cassie's in the tub in season 2. He publicly said, like on his TikTok, "Oh yeah, mine's the only one that's mine. Everyone else has prosthetics."
That pisses
But
me off.
the women have to show their real anatomy, their real boobs, but men can't do the same thing. Hmm.
Right. You know, and it's funny because men are worried about, they're so self conscious about their dick. Our vaginas aren't the same either, bro. Like,
Hmm.
grow your
Yep.
bush out and nobody's, I'm sorry. When I look at a flaccid weenie, I'm like, whatever. Give me a boner. And then I'm like, let me look. You know what I mean? But then I'm also, I will objectify the fuck out of men because I've been objectified my whole life. I'm still objectified.
Yeah.
And while sometimes I'm like, thank you. Call me 28 and say my body is that of a goddess again.
Right?
You. I
Yeah.
will totally absorb that, but I also don't owe you shit.
Yeah.
But that means
I
I have
feel the
some
same.
power over you. They've been doing it to me, so I'm going to do it to them when they wear gray sweatpants.
Hmm. I feel the
And
same way.
right, and then like the scenes, like some of the uncomfortable things when until you told me that there was prosthetics, I was uncomfortable watching like the shower scenes because these are being portrayed as teenagers. So
Right.
I did have
Hmm.
a little bit of a reservation. I literally looked up ages to make sure that I wasn't being a pedophile.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if for good reason, because look what Nate does to fucking Jules, dude. Cis men, when they're heartbroken, when they get their
Hmm.
feelings hurt,
Hmm.
rejected,
He's
um,
blackmailing her.
yeah, stub their toe, they are vengeful
Hmm.
motherfuckers. They get
And
humiliated
we're
in the
the
slightest.
yeah, and we're the emotional ones. Please. Hmm.
What do you think? I would love to see an episode of Euphoria where there's no cis males for just one of the episodes. I would love to see the world, like, you know how there's a fucking international day of blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Give me an international day of non cis males. I don't care
Yeah.
what, I don't care, white, black, Latin, fuck
Hmm.
off for a full day and
Just
let's
give
see
us
what happens.
one day.
One.
One day. One day to feel safe to even go to the grocery store or walk down the street or pump our own gas. Just one day. That would be amazing.
It really would.
Amazing.
People, I remember my mom, and there's people out there, why don't you go anywhere without Chuck? I'm
Are they
using my
men?
husband's white privilege because I show my body publicly. That's not even it. Even when I was clothed, I needed,
Mhm.
I shouldn't I just saw a TikTok today where a dude was in Bend, Oregon. Bend, Oregon, Eastern Oregon. He's a black male going hiking with his friends and was called the N word with a hard R. I can't even say it.
Mhm.
And I saved that TikTok and I'll play it, but he had to bring his bodyguards, which were a bunch of plus size white women. And I'm like, that's right. But
Mhm.
also, we also should not have to have bodyguards, especially women. I would love to go walk around Portland by myself. I can't do it without my husband or at least one of my femme friends.
Right.
I
Mhm.
told you what happened at Boy Harshaw, although I was very, very flattered.
Mhm.
I was very, very proud of myself for noticing the precursor.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Mhm.
it would be nice to just give us one day to where we can go outside and feel safe. You're right, because I don't feel
Mhm.
safe. Even I didn't feel safe in California. I didn't feel safe going out by myself. I don't feel safe going out here unless I'm with Chuck or friends.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
And it's not
That's
and
God.
sometimes I'm like, fuck you, and I'm an independent woman. I don't need a dad. or protect her,
Mhm.
but I really fucking do.
No, yeah, it's this scary world out there.
It
I
it
don't leave the house without pepper spray and a taser.
yeah. Oh, so you have one? I found a really I gotta send you this cool chick that I met, up here. She fucking sells, like, resin shanks with, like, flowers in them.
That's awesome.
They're so bad, and I put on my keychain, you know what I mean? And it just
Yeah.
I carried it to the bathroom with me when I went to go see Boy Harsher because I was like, "Oh, hell no."
Yeah, and we shouldn't have to like carry these things to feel semi-safe, but we have to.
We too. And then you have men going, "Oh, she's ugly," or "She ain't gonna" no, fool, everybody has a fetish about some kind of fucking woman.
Yeah.
Especially confident women. There's nothing worse than a confident woman and a man wants to take her down. So, and that's
Mhm.
like the sum of like the fucking Jacobs family. Even the mom doesn't do shit. She turned around and walked away.
Yep.
When
Mhm.
Cal, left his family. Bitch, you
Mhm.
better fucking woman up because you're about to fucking have a bomb put fucking
Yep. Mhm.
like, there's no for hiding from that shit. So the problems with like Sam Levinson were, um, besides the fact that he's still inherently sexist, that he cannot be told how his partner should. Even the character that played McKay has
Mhm.
less of a role. A prominent
Mhm.
black character aside from Zendaya
Yep.
and her mom.
Yeah, I think he's out, isn't he?
No, he's not out. He still has him on the bill. He just basically had nothing other than Nate harassing him about coming if he fucked Cassie
No,
at
I
the
mean
party.
like for the future season, I haven't heard if he's coming back or not.
I don't know, but I hope he does because we need him. We need
Mhm. Yeah.
closure on McKay.
Mhm.
So that's another thing. Sam, I'll tweet about, and tag Sam Levinson in the show on, at this point in my life, I'm open to conversations. Not that he would have one with me.
Who
Um,
knows?
who knows? But you have to go, okay, let me actually listen to the perspective of this woman, or else you're gonna end up like Kubrick and John Landis, ruining
Mhm.
people's lives. I do love that Zendaya has a lot of influence on the show, but she
Yeah,
also too has to put some little bit of, pussy power behind it. You know what I mean?
I agree. Mhm.
Just to protect her co-stars.
Mhm.
Who else was what else did he do? So McKay also complained about the lack of seasons. Cassie was very Sydney Sweeney was not thrilled about the amount of nude scenes. Like they weren't
Mhm.
necessary and she tried to say something
Yeah.
and he didn't want to hear it. Sometimes
Yep.
he did, sometimes he didn't. Because it,
Mhm.
it didn't match his vision. Who else did he upset? I can't remember who else. I thought I wrote notes about it. Da, 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 da. Okay, well, I just fucked up. So, Justin, do you have any other problematic issues with the show that we should probably discuss? We need to discuss the problems
Mhm.
of the show.
Hmm. Let me think.
Also, there was not enough makeup effects in the season two.
Oh, yes. And I think I forget her name. It's Bobby something, the like makeup director. I think they wanted to make that a point. Only the character Maddie was the one who was gonna have the full face makeup because that kind of like adds to her strong character. And everyone else was gonna be like quote unquote like a little bit more vulnerable. Like because you can see like Cassie always looks very flushed and like sweaty. And that kind of adds to her character for season two, how she's basically a mess.
Yeah.
So they kind of made her look like, okay, she fits the part.
I cannot get mad. You're right. I can't complain about the lack of makeup. They
Mhm.
fucking I am really mad about the baby hair. Like, I'm not upset about Maddie doing the baby hair,
Mhm.
the edges.
Yeah.
I'm mad about Cassie doing that shit.
Cassie, oh God. When they first show her with Nate, I was like, no, what did they do? The way
Oh,
they have her dressed and her makeup, just no. You like, I'm sorry, but you can't be Maddie.
yeah,
You
cringe.
just can't.
Cringe. And that's where I'm like, and Maddie picked up on it right away, like,
Yeah.
you okay?
Yes. And I like how they added how every single day she wakes up at 4 a.m. She's doing her whole routine, but Nate only notices her when she's dressed just like Maddie. So it's like you're doing so much, and the guy doesn't even look your way.
As an adult, you're like, fuck it then. But as a
Yeah,
teenager who has daddy issues, your dad abandoned you after you loved him
yeah.
so much.
Hmm.
This is again cis white male issues.
Yep.
Whether they're harboring queer tendencies and keeping them at bay, you're
Hmm.
harming your kids when you're not living the way you were meant to fucking live.
Yes, exactly.
Stop fucking thinking power is what's going to get you through this existence. That's an American I hate men. Get it together.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, not
Hmm.
all men. I do love my trans men, my queer men. I love my man. I love my most of my male cis male friends, most of them.
Yeah.
I give us a week. You know what? But they'd be like,
Not just
no,
a
we'll lose too
day.
much money.
Just give us our week.
It's just it's so bad. So
Mhm.
it's really sad. It's like, how do you tell a girl like Cassie, you know, you have so much more, and she just keeps digging a hole, and now
Yeah.
she's going to die.
Yeah. Hmm. I feel like that happens a lot, and it's basically up to her to realize that and, respect herself and just grow up.
Yeah, time to grow up. Now, what would you do
Mhm.
if you were Maddie and you were in the Cassie situation? Okay, and you totally reacted the way Maddie did. Okay, with which I totally support because fuck. But what would you do, let's say 20 years later, and Matt hit you up on Facebook like I did? What would you do older, you know, slightly you're slightly older, knowing what you know now? What would you do with Cassie as, you know, let's say a 28, 30-year-old? What would you do with
I, I would still hate her.
her?
I'm a Scorpio.
Scorpio.
I'm a Scorpio. I will hold a grudge till the day I die.
I love it. And I'm like,
I would not forgive her. I'm sorry. You could have picked some other dude, but like you go for my ex-boyfriend, like I'm sorry, but you don't do that.
and
I don't
they were supposed to be working shit out. And here's the other thing too. Cassie didn't ever have a dude tell her no.
yeah, no.
I would have used that power.
Mhm.
You see what I mean? Like the power that she didn't know that she had. Are you
Yeah.
mad at me for sleeping with my friend's boyfriend in high school, Veronica?
No, no, I'm not, but like just me growing up, that was just always like the rule. Like you just don't do that because you know everything about them. Like because of your friend, they tell you that. Like you, Cassie, would hear every single thing Maddie tells you about that dude, and you still went after him.
I can get that. I have to admit, she
Yeah.
wasn't my best friend. She didn't talk about him very often, and he only slept with me because I was easy. She wasn't giving it up.
I feel
So
like your situation is different, but
it was
also,
definitely not a Cassie and Maddie situation. No, we weren't that tight.
I also feel like Nate chose her because she's vulnerable, and he
Mhm.
saw
Of
straight through
course.
her. Hmm.
Obviously, even his stature, like if I saw that dude on the street, I'm getting on the other side of the sidewalk. I
Me
don't give
too.
a fuck how nice and British he is. I don't give a fuck.
No.
He plays
Yeah.
that role too well, and
Yeah.
I'm not, you know, I'm not okay.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, even like the character of Cal made me realize how many cows I've associated with over the years, and I'm going,
Hmm.
I really could have put myself into some really seriously bad situations.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um,
It's scary.
you know what I
I
mean? And
feel
it's
like,
terrible.
yeah, I kind of wanted him to like find his Derek though when he went back to that bar where he would hang out with. I was really hoping. I was like, maybe he needs this. He needs to find his long lost
Well,
love and,
and maybe
finally.
let their love heal the world. Like, let's say if he would have gone, okay, I've got to take responsibility for all the wrongdoings. Like, oh shit, I slept with 17-year-olds because I was blinded by lust. I'm gonna have to own that. I'm gonna have to go
Right.
to jail, lose everything. I will make up for it when I'm released because we all know
Mhm.
that men get released from jail.
Right.
But that brings up a good point that I actually wrote down. When it came to the Jacobs family. Okay, so instead he wanted to hide it and he thought that he could manipulate his double life, right?
Mhm.
Now, speaking from my personal experiences, I've dealt with women and their husbands and families who would have, like Cal and his wife and Nate and the brothers, because there's three of them.
Yep.
Okay. Three of them. They used their influence, power, money to manipulate their community into thinking that things that were important, like a chili cook off, was a successful story.
Right.
I used to endure, excuse you, sir. I used to endure women who would hold the most fantastic fundraisers for a cancer run because all of their moms died of cancer. Nothing wrong with that. I sympathize, but when your mom has lived a full life
Mhm.
and you can organize these wonderful events for your mom, why can't you do that instead of calling the cops on the one unhoused person in Rancho Cucamonga
Yes.
and help them out?
Mhm.
So
Right.
I look at how these women have all these influences and their husbands have these influences and this power, and they're only harnessing it to their interests and their needs. And I'm going to talk about this in a
Mhm.
blog, and I'm going to lose followers, friends, and whatever so-called people when I
Oh.
start calling out. Yeah, when I start calling out how instead of using your power, influence, and wealth, attained
Mhm.
wealth, to shit on people and only invest in things that are going to make your profits higher at the end of the year. I
That's.
can't.
Mhm. It's
And that's
disgusting.
it is disgusting. And this is what the Jacobs family has done. So
Mhm.
imagine the energy that so what I wrote was imagine if they put that energy into actually sharing their influence wealth, because these two things are all these things that the only two things these people care about. I've seen it
Yeah.
firsthand. What if they put
Mhm.
it into humanitarian efforts? Instead, they convince themselves that holding cancer runs and fundraisers are their charity and good doing for tax season, but
Mhm.
call the cops on the unhoused person just resting on a public bench. They don't even consider the harm that they're doing to that vulnerable person because they think that vulnerable person asked for that shitty life.
Mhm. They are so quick to blame the victim.
When they don't realize that they could just all they have to do is look at the simplicity of it.
Mhm.
Say, fuck, I fucked up. How do I learn from that situation and help?
Yes.
Because they on it. I've again seen it firsthand. The Jacobs family. I've seen like 8 of them.
Right.
Do you know how scary it was? To have to even sell myself out just to survive in those communities.
Mhm. It's scary.
you know so
Mhm.
I look at that and I look at their Lululemon fundraisers and their bake sales and their
Yeah.
hey, come to my backyard for my massage
Oh God.
and buy my leggings and purses
Mhm.
that they could be. Yeah, and that's why I fell in love with the Halloween horror community but that's an episode for another day. Any closing thoughts, Veronica, on Euphoria? I feel like should we do another show because we haven't talked about the MUAs. We haven't talked about other things. What have I missed?
There's just so much.
There's a lot.
Yeah, like we can break down a whole episode each time because there's just a lot.
I think that what we should do. Have you watched Yellow Jackets yet?
No, I
Okay.
haven't.
So what I want to do is definitely come back with you when season 3 happens, and I'm so down for weekly Sunday episodes. Like after the episode airs,
Mhm.
like when I was watching Insecure, that was my Black Girl Sunday moment. Just so sad because it was only 20 minutes. So it's like I can be a black girl and watch this show, right? A black woman and watch this show without
Mhm.
my white husband going, "Hey, shut up! Let me have this." But they had a podcast where they would discuss and dissect the episodes afterwards. I say we do that horror and Halloween style from
Mhm.
our horror and Halloween perspectives and
Yeah.
as people who actually give a shit about people's mental status.
Mhm. I think that's a great idea.
Let's do it for season 3 when we find out that it's coming out. So the
Yes.
discussion will continue. I'm
Mhm.
also up to our DMs as always. Like when this Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial,
Oh
I'm
my.
so down to talk about
Oh
it.
my God. That woman is making us all look really bad.
She's making Maddie look bad. She's making Jules look bad. She's making Fuck. Oh man. Like what? It's like
Look bad.
it's just bad. I was
Hmm.
all for the Me Too movement until Amber Heard was like, "I'm part of that gang."
No, you're not, girl.
Bitch,
No, you're
I've
not.
seen a person. Did you know she actually fucked over Missy Munster? I'll say that
Hmm.
shit publicly because Missy did. Artist in LA who makes these beautiful fucking headpieces, like fucking morbid. They're gorgeous. She
Hmm.
creates beautiful works of art, dark works of art. Amber Heard, I think in early 2020 or sometime during 2020, came to Missy and was like, "Hey, I want to have this piece done." You know, like again, this is like one a vendor like Strange Cult, an artist like fucking Caitlin McCarthy, our favorite artists, right? Who
Yeah.
commission these pieces. They commission these
Hmm.
pieces. And of course, they're not cheap. They shouldn't be because they are actual works of art. Amber Heard tried, her representative tried knocking down the price, and Missy was like, "Sorry, I can't do that." Bitch stole the design and went to another fucking cheaper person. And that's when I
Wow.
was like, done with Amber Heard. Not that I was
Hmm.
ever giving her the benefit of the doubt. I was just being quiet because at the time I thought that you're supposed to believe the liar, even if
Right.
he was a liar. Fuck that.
Hmm.
Johnny Depp has been my fucking hero.
Hmm.
Again, there's like 5 cis men in the world that I will ever let pass with a fuck up. Chuck, Jackson, Johnny Depp. Well, let me start over on my list of priority because the list
They're not in order. Just say
not in
that.
order. Chuck, Johnny Depp, Chuck, Chuck, Johnny Depp at the same time.
Hmm. Hmm.
Jackson, Justin. Who else do I have? Oh, Avenue Obscura.
Hmm.
That's it. Okay, Sal. I don't know if he's straight though. Sal Montanez. But cis white men, like you have an issue, but I'm saying like those are the only ones that are allowed some fuck ups. Like there are some men that will get some fuck ups for me. Johnny Depp, I'm sorry, there's just the history there and just following his story for life. He's been
Hmm.
consistent his whole life. He is someone. Would you marry him if you were? Let's say you're. I don't know how old you are. If I was 25 and I had the opportunity to marry Johnny Depp, I would have been like, dude, let's just fucking be friends. I have no
Yeah.
interest in getting married or
No,
having a monogamous relationship with you.
you can ask my siblings. I've loved that man since I knew I loved men.
Same.
No, I would divorce Justin in a heartbeat and I will marry him. And I will say that unapologetically. I will. I don't care that he's 30 years older than me. I will marry him.
But you treat him right. You wouldn't fucking beat him.
Oh, of course not.
I would want to just be friends with benefits because I've followed this man my entire life. I know he's tormented by the same things I'm tormented. Like
Mhm.
I feel him.
Yeah.
Like the extrovert slash introvert slash artist slash I just don't like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with life. I'm just a fucked up person. And living with a profound amount of guilt on your head for just breathing a certain
Mhm.
way. I get him. I wouldn't marry him. I just want to be friends with benefits. Like,
Mhm.
and I would never have
Okay,
bared his children.
I get it.
But you see what I mean? Like Amber Heard, you're dumb
Mhm.
fucking idiot. What are you doing? Go hang out
Mhm.
with James Franco.
Right? And Elon.
Fuck Elon. I was like, are you fucking serious? Like, Elon
Mhm.
doesn't surprise me. She really thought that we turned this whole show. She thought that having James Franco as a witness was a good idea.
That's not a good
Okay,
idea. Yeah.
dumbass. Call Seth Rogen instead.
Right. Seth Rogen would not answer her call.
No, he would not. He's a smart man. Who I used to have a
Mhm.
crush on him too. Anyways, we'll resume Euphoria talk. Veronica, thank you for getting me. Look at what I did. I did makeup, but it melted because I'm old and I think perimenopausal. It
Oh
actually
my
exploded. I wore like glitter on my face. My daughter was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, "Shut up."
Like you have to you know.
And then she threw a bunch of her colored eyeliner in her face. Look at Veronica. Don't look at me. Look at Veronica. The real makeup artist.
Thank you.
I love you so much. Thank you for actually making one of your like rare appearances on camera with me.
Thanks for having me. I hope I did well. I was like so nervous. Even right now, I'm still like, what did I say? Like, did I sound dumb?
No, you're actually one of the most intelligent people I know.
I try.
And I
Thank
feel like,
you.
and I'm not asking for consent and I'm not asking you to take care of me, but just know that you're just one of those trusted people. And make sure that I ask you for consent before I fucking lay my bullshit on you.
Oh my gosh. No, you can tell me anything. I
And
can
that's how I
handle.
feel with you. We've had a connection for years. So,
Yeah.
all right, everyone, we will see you next week. I'm actually going live with who am I going live with next week? What's next week? Oh, May 2nd, I'm going live with the real Johnny D, former Creepy Kingdom contributor like myself. So we're going to be talking some shit and, oh, I'm sorry, realness. And I also
Mhm.
am very curious to hear how Johnny has actually pursued his recent upsurge in fucking short film status. He's at theaters every weekend. Fuck yeah, Johnny. I can't wait to
Mhm.
talk with you. And I'm not talking about adjusting the time yet. We'll talk about that later. Veronica and Justin, I love you guys.
We love you too.
And we'll talk soon, y'all. See you next week.
Bye.